The shattering snap of a branch echoed through the quiet afternoon air. A sound so violent and unexpected it felt like a gunshot. You. I saw what you did. This is a Class A violation of our bylaws. Her voice, a shrill, venomous staccato, cut through the suburban calm. It was a lie. I hadn't done a thing. But there she was. Karen, the HOA president. A self-appointed tyrant with a clipboard and a permanent scowl, pointing at the ravaged petunias by my mailbox. The accusation was so absurd, so utterly baseless. I had to stop and stare. What on earth was she talking about? My heart, usually a steady drumbeat, gave a weary thud. This was a Tuesday. I just wanted to get my mail, not fight a war over petunias I didn't plant. I watched her, this caricature of suburban rage, as she stomped closer. Her face was a mask of righteous indignation. Her jaw clenched so tightly I thought her teeth might crack. Her eyes, magnified by her frameless glasses, were laser-focused on me, burning with an almost pathological need for control. She had a personal vendetta against anything that wasn't perfectly manicured. And it seemed today, that was me. The crumpled petals of the flowers were a testament to her own recent rampage. Yet she stood there accusing me of the very thing she'd just done. The hypocrisy was breathtaking. I let out a low sigh, a weary gust of air I'd been holding since I'd first heard her voice. Ma'am, I just got here. I didn't touch those flowers. Don't you ma'am me. I saw you, with my own 2 eyes. You're the one with the unregistered vehicle on the street last night. 2. This is a pattern of defiance, and I'm putting a stop to it right now. She screeched, her voice cracking with fury. I demand to see your ID. I need to verify your residency and issue a formal citation. She held out her hand, a tremor of pure authority in her fingers. The demand was so brazen, so beyond the pale of any actual authority she possessed, that a hollow chuckle escaped my lips. Did she truly believe she had the power to demand identification? Just then, the discreet chime of a phone vibrated in my pocket. My calm facade wavered for a split second, a flicker of professional obligation threatening to break through the domestic absurdity. And then, as if on cue from some cosmic director, a sleek black SUV, previously idling a block away, purred to a stop directly behind her. The rear passenger door swung open. A man in a sharp, dark suit, tall and with an impossibly neutral expression, stepped out. He was Agent Miller, my shadow, my protector. Karen, oblivious to the man's presence, simply turned her back on him, fixated on my supposed transgressions. She took a step toward me, invading my personal space, her scent of expensive perfume and desperation a potent cocktail. Are you going to comply? Or do I need to call the authorities? She hissed, a triumphant glint in her eyes, as if she'd finally caught me in a trap. That's when Agent Miller finally spoke, his voice a low, smooth baritone that was both polite and absolute. Ma'am, there will be no need for that. He moved with an effortless grace, placing himself between Karen and me, a physical barrier of pure, unyielding authority. Karen, taken aback, finally registered his presence. She looked him up and down, her eyes narrowing. Who are you? This is a private matter between a resident and the HOA president. Her voice was still full of venom, but now laced with a thread of confusion, of a narrative she couldn't control. I don't care who you are. This doesn't concern you. The air suddenly felt thick, heavy with unspoken weight. A neighbor, an older woman named Mrs. Peterson, who had always been kind but terrified of Karen, peeked out from behind her blinds, drawn to the commotion like a moth to a flame. She had been the victim of Karen's passive-aggressive reign of terror for years, too scared to stand up for herself. Agent Miller didn't flinch. He simply reached into his jacket pocket. A deliberate, slow motion. His hand emerged holding a small, laminated card. The card wasn't an ID. It was a presidential clearance card. The kind you only see on the news. The kind that screamed national security. He didn't show it to me, but to her. He held it up, just long enough for her eyes to register the official seal. The specific markings. The gravity of it all. This is presidential clearance. Ma'am, he is on official business. You are interfering with a matter of national security. The words weren't a threat. They were a simple, stone-cold fact. Karen's face, a second ago flushed with anger, went stark white. The color drained from her cheeks, leaving behind a sallow, shocked pallor. Her jaw went slack. The clipboard she was holding slipped from her nerveless fingers, clattering onto the pavement. The sound sharp and final in the sudden, absolute silence. Karen just stared, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. The bravado, the self-important fury, all of it evaporated in an instant. It was a masterclass in power dynamics, and she was watching her world crumble in front of her. She stammered something, a garbled string of syllables that were neither an apology nor an excuse. The quiet neighbor, Mrs. Peterson, finally opened her door and stepped outside. "That's not all," she said, her voice surprisingly steady. No longer a tremor of fear, but a quiver of righteous anger. "She tore down my rose bushes last week because she said they were obstructing the sidewalk. She said if I didn't pay the fine, she'd have my property seized." Other neighbors started to emerge, drawn by the silence and the sight of the Secret Service agent. A ripple of truth began to spread, a collective realization that they had all been living under the thumb of a small, cruel woman. The police finally arrived, summoned by Karen's own call. But the script had been flipped. The Secret Service agent calmly presented his credentials and explained the situation. The police, professional and swift, listened carefully. They took statements from Mrs. Peterson, and then, after a brief consultation, turned their attention to Karen. The citations weren't for me, but for her for destruction of property, harassment, and an illegal exercise of authority. Her tears, when they came, were not of regret, but of pure, unadulterated humiliation. They weren't from a place of sorrow, but a deep, ugly shame at being so utterly and completely exposed. As they led her away, her pathetic pleas for understanding fading into the distance. A weight I hadn't known I was carrying lifted from my shoulders. The air felt cleaner, the sun a little warmer. I wasn't a hero, just a man who had an unusual job and a very lucky day. Mrs. Peterson came over, her eyes wet with gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered, her hand on my arm. "Thank you for just being you." I didn't do it for her, not intentionally, but in that moment, I understood the ripple effect of every action, big or small. The community, once cowered by a bully, now stood a little taller. Justice, that elusive thing, had finally had its day. Is it wrong to use a position of power, even a hidden one, to enforce justice when normal methods have failed? Where do we draw the line between a lucky break and a calculated takedown? Do you think the neighbors should have stood up to her sooner? Let me know what you think.